Noah is thankful that God saved him from the waters of the flood, and he shows that thanks by building an altar and offering a sacrifice to the Lord. Then God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, and all the creatures that move along the ground, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number on it." So Noah came out together with his sons and his wife and his sons' wives, all the animals and all the creatures that move along the ground, and all the birds, everything that moves on land, came out of the ark, one kind after another. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking some of all the clean animals and birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelled a pleasing aroma, and said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease." When Hurricane Ian made landfall in southwest Florida, there were wind gusts of 150 miles an hour. The hurricane dropped almost 2 feet of rain as it slowly made its way across the state. The storm surge, so the tide, the water level, as Ian made landfall, was 12 feet higher than normal, the highest ever recorded in many places along the coast. And it did a lot of damage, and it caused a lot of death. So far the death toll is over 120, with more expected. But as the water recedes and the flooding stops, people will begin to talk about rebuilding. After cleaning up the damage and the destruction, residents will build back again, or they'll leave and somebody else will build in their place. Another home, another residence, communities that are totally wiped out, they'll be built again. When they build back, they'll certainly try to make improvements so that this doesn't happen again. But they'll rebuild. Noah was in a flood that covered the whole world. The tops of the highest mountains were covered. God saw the wickedness on the earth, the violence and the evil, the lust and the selfishness and the power grabs, and God regretted that he made humankind. He had remorse over all the evil that he saw men perpetrating against other men. And so he numbered the days of man on the earth, 120 days, and he would destroy the whole world with a flood. Hurricane Ian is a reminder of God's judgment. It's a reminder of how God destroyed the whole world, put to death all living things, men and animals, that had the breath of life in their nostrils with the flood. Hurricane Ian is a reminder that God's judgment will come against the world again because of the evil and the violence that men and women perpetrate against one another still today. But in numbering the days of mankind on the earth, God delivered Noah and his family. God saw Noah, a righteous man. Noah is called blameless. He walked before the Lord. And God warned Noah ahead of time, I'm going to flood the whole world. God told him to build a boat, a huge boat. A boat that would fit enough food and had enough room for 2 of every kind of living creature on the earth. God told Noah 120 years in advance. And Noah, in faith, built the ark. 7 days before God brought the water of the flood onto the earth, God told Noah, enter into the ark. God brought 2 of every kind of living creature to Noah. All those animals enter the ark, and God closes it up. 7 days later, the water of the flood raises the ark off the ground. And for over a year, Noah and his family are on that huge boat. For over a year, they're being tossed around on the open sea. For over a year, God miraculously keeps them safe. God miraculously preserves Noah and all those animals. And our text picks up after the flood. The flood has ended. The ark comes to rest on a mountain. The land has dried out. And now God speaks to Noah, and he says, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, and all creatures that move along the ground, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number on it." The Lord will use those living creatures that were on the ark to rebuild, to repopulate the world. God will use Noah and his family to repopulate the human race on the earth. And certainly, it will be better, won't it? Noah, when he comes off the ark, the first thing he does, the first thing that he thinks to build is not, "I got to get a house built." The first thing he thinks to build is not, "I need a barn so that I can plant crops and have a place to store them." The first thing he does isn't to till up a field and plant seed. The very first thing he does, the very first thing he thinks about when he gets off that boat that he's been on for over a year is to build an altar to the Lord. This is what faith builds. Faith builds an altar. And Noah takes some of those precious few clean animals that were on the ark, and he offers them as a sacrifice to God. And in doing this, Noah acknowledges the grace of God, that it's by God's mercy and because of God's love that he and these animals have survived. And it acknowledges that God will continue to preserve them and care for them. Noah also acknowledges that what God had done is just. Noah doesn't come out of the ark with a chip on his shoulder. "Why did you do this, God?" Noah acknowledges that God was right in bringing this judgment on the earth. Noah builds an altar and he offers those clean animals. And the Lord smells that sacrifice, and God says in his heart, "Never again will I destroy all living creatures. Never again will I bring waters of a flood to destroy all. Never again will I put everyone to death in a flood like this." And God puts a rainbow in the sky as a sign of that promise. And it looks at this point, or it might look at this point in the story, it might look like we got a fresh start here with a good man, a righteous man, a blameless man, and this isn't going to happen again. God has a caveat, doesn't he? And God knows. God makes the promise, "I'm not going to destroy the whole world again with a flood," but God knows. He says, even though the inclination, every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. This rebuilding through Noah, it's not a rebuilding that is going to eliminate sin. The inclinations of Noah's heart are evil from childhood. The inclinations of Noah's children, their hearts are evil from childhood, their inclinations. The inclinations of Noah's grandchildren and future generations, every inclination evil from childhood. That didn't change. The flood didn't change that. It didn't stop that. That sinful human nature is still the same evil nature that it was before the flood. It is after the flood. You don't have to read too much further after our text. Just in chapter 9, Noah plants a vineyard and he gets drunk and he lies naked in his tent, and one of his sons comes in and makes fun of him. You don't have to read much further to see that the people who survived the flood, the people whom God miraculously delivered, are really no better, humanly speaking, no better, no less sinful than those who were wiped off the face of the earth. If we were studying through Genesis, if we were reading through Genesis and we started at the beginning, we would have been anticipating something. God made a promise in Genesis chapter 3. He made a promise to Adam and Eve that the woman's offspring would crush the head of the devil. And so if you're reading Genesis from the beginning, you're anticipating, is this it? Is it Cain? No, it's not Cain. Is it Abel? No, it's not Abel. Is it Seth? No, it's not Seth. And now at this point we come to Noah. Is it Noah? Is he the one who will crush the devil? Is he the one through whom God will make the world a righteous place? No, it's not Noah. And if you keep reading, that anticipation continues. Is it Abraham who's going to make the world a righteous place? No. Is it Moses? No, it's not Moses. Is it David who will make the world a righteous place, who will crush the devil? No, it's not David. Every time throughout Genesis, it seems like maybe this is it. Here's a man who follows the Lord, a man who's obedient to God. Maybe he'll crush the devil. Maybe he'll defeat the devil. No. But then comes the Son who does. The world is rebuilt through Noah, God through Noah, but it's sinful yet. But God builds an ark in His Son, Jesus. The one who would defeat the devil, He had to come from heaven. He had to be God in order to defeat the devil. The one who defeats the devil, He has to be holy. He has to be blameless in every way for His whole life, and He is. The one who defeats the devil, He has to take the sin of the world. He has to take our sin as His own, and He does at the cross. The one who defeats the devil has to die and rise again in order to rescue us from the flood of judgment that we have brought upon ourselves with our every offense against God. In Jesus, the waters of destruction recede. In Jesus, there is a place of safety. As God gave Noah and his family safety in the water, in the ark from the waters of the flood, God gives you safety from the coming judgment in Jesus. God is going to destroy the world again, not with a flood, but with fire. God is going to levy His judgment against all the godless, all the wicked of the world, which should include us. We all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, but in Jesus there is safety from that judgment which is coming. In Jesus, we are lifted up and rescued from that flood of punishment. In Jesus, we are safe. And now, we can think about the best thing that we can do in our place of safety. God has rescued us from judgment. And there's a lot of things that we could build in this world. But the thing that really lasts is an altar to God, isn't it? God knows that we need a place to live. God knows that we need food. But is that our priority? Is that what we are building our lives on? Is that what we're working for? Is that what we're building toward? These worldly things? I mean, Noah, I'm sure eventually he built a house. I would assume Noah eventually built a barn. But that was not his priority when he walked off that boat. When he walked off that boat, saved by Jesus, his priority is to build an altar to God and offer a sacrifice of thanks to the Lord who had rescued him. Having been rescued by Jesus, the best thing that we can build is an altar, isn't it? An altar which honors the Lord. Having been rescued by Jesus, the best thing that we can do with what he has given to us is to offer a sacrifice on that altar. To offer ourselves, our lives, as living sacrifices to the Lord. That our lives are not our own, but to give ourselves to God, to give ourselves to his work, to his service, as we serve Jesus, as we serve each other, as we serve our neighbors, as we bring the gospel to people. There's a lot that we could build. But doesn't it make sense to prioritize building that altar to Jesus? As we are here, gathered together in God's house, as we are here gathered together in the safety of Christ, to receive him, to receive his gifts of forgiveness, to receive his truth in the scriptures, to be more closely united in bonds of love and fellowship with each other. As we gather here, we gather in safety. Our souls are safe, and that fills us with joy. Our souls are safe, and so we don't need to fear the judgment that we know is coming, because Jesus has delivered us from it. And as those who've been delivered, it's our privilege to say thank you to our God. It's our privilege to live for him, to prioritize honoring and sacrificing to him. We give thanks to God for all of his mercies, new every day. We give thanks to God for his salvation in Jesus. Amen.